and my addiction and how I became, and how I got connected to source, to spirit, to God. I like to say God, and so I'll just start not from the beginning. I don't want to bore the hell out of you. I want to kind of keep you somewhat interested, but I'm hoping that telling my story will help out somebody that's going through the same issues. That's why I do these things. But a lifelong alcoholic, in 2018 is when the turning point was. That's when my dad died. My rock, my foundation, the glue that held our family together. The old school dad that, taught us things. We've held the flashlight. We learned about cars. We learned about how to fight. We learned how to be a man. We learned how to treat women with respect and to treat the Mother Nature with respect, the forest, the nature, the animals with respect. We're taught all this. I grew up in my father's. His father had bought a bunch of land way back, and just got it for all his children. And so there were literally cousins all around our house where we grew up. It was like a little community that I grew up in. And so we always had, and my grandfather, he would grow his own potatoes and corn and green beans, and they had apple trees, and they slaughtered hogs, and they picked blackberries, and they lived off the land like they could, and I got to go walk through the fields going home and seeing the snakes but being with all the cousins and playing all the games and being around people that can truly loved you and were there for you. It was a community, and I'm blessed that I got to grow up in that. And I think God was preparing me for the future, because first and foremost, as a starseed, as a light worker, as any of that kind of stuff, I strongly believe, first and foremost, my mission is as an earth guardian, as a mother Gaia protector, as an earth protector, because she's been through so much abuse and I've made some videos on that, with all the pollution, with all the fires, with all the murders, the wars, the destruction, the nuclear explosions, the nuclear testing underwater, all the plastic in the oceans that are hurting the animals, and all the just litter, all the plastic everywhere. And then, I believe she's like about ready to blow and just about ready to do a reset and say, starting over, And I'm getting off subject again. I have a tendency to do that. But 2018, when my dad died, it really affected me. And that was the year where I just couldn't focus on my work, and they had put me in a different position. I didn't like it, and it was going downhill. And I started drinking more, and I gained a lot of weight, and I was unhappy at work. I did a great job for a long time. They sent me to Japan for a whole year to be the project leader. And I was an engineering supervisor over a lot of engineers, and I got to interview co-ops, and I got to do a lot of fun things. But I got to go to Japan with my whole family, and I learned a lot of stuff, and I got to see a different culture, and that also I think is going to be very important going forward. In this mission, and seeing how different cultures in Japan was just night and day. We could send the kids. We live on the outskirts of Nagoya, in a big city in Japan, and we lived near the subway station on the very outskirts in the suburbs, kind of, so to speak. And we would let my kids were there, and they were in junior high and high school, and they would take the subway by themselves downtown Nagoya, meet their friends, go play games and stuff, get back on the subway and come back. And we didn't worry about safety or anything. Customer service, the politeness over there was different. And it's a good life lesson. But in 2018 is when I went overboard and I got fired. I did get fired from my career job. From there, I went a year of being controlled, as far as just very, very controlled, as far as giving me some alcohol, but limiting it and limiting my Xanax, and always keeping me under control, where I always wanted, locking things up, taking batteries out of cars, not letting me have the keys. I just had to walk everywhere, everyone breaking into my room for interventions, treating me like just a common criminal, to where I had enough. And I didn't know I was going to kill myself, But I was so tired because I couldn't sleep that I actually overdosed on ibuprofen thinking it was going to help me sleep. And that was in 2019 that I overdosed and I died. I coded, and I made a miraculous. They told my family I would not survive the night, that to go ahead and make plans and all that. And miraculously, the next few days, I made a miraculous recovery. And I do firmly believe that I went up and I met God. And so then from there, and he told me probably that I'm not done with you yet. It's time you got to go back. And I do believe from there, that's when my rehab started, and I hated it, and I hated it, and I hated it. So I did a month, got another job, started drinking again, got fired from that job. Started drinking again, and got another job. Ended up quitting that job, and then finally I said, you know what? I've got to get help. And I reached that point where I was like, I've got to get help. And I went to another rehab. And in that rehab is where I met this other engineer like myself. He was about my age. We were both Gen Xers, you know. We had a lot to talk about. And his name's Chris, and he was my roommate. We were both Tennessee Vols fans. And we took this young man under our wing called Preston, who's a 30-something-year-old. He was just full of energy, and his country boy, tall, lanky, 6'3", you know, played the guitar, was homeless, and he was strung out on different drugs and things like that. And me and Chris had a great time and all that, and it was a good experience. And Chris was a former preacher, and we talked about the differences because I was an agnostic at that time, and you know, I didn't believe in God, and so we had discussions there. And anyway, I got out of that rehab, and I didn't drink for almost a year. And I started going to AA meetings, and it was getting, I was really liking it, was sharing and stuff. And I went to an AA meeting once, and they were all sad in the AA meeting, and I said, "What's going on?" They said, "Yeah, Preston, he overdosed last night, and you know, they just tossed his body on the street." And that was the person that me and Chris had taken under our wing. So, you know, I sent Chris a text. I was devastated, and I didn't get a reply. So I came out of the AA meeting the next day, and I got a reply from Chris, and I read it, but it wasn't Chris, you see. It was Chris's wife, and she was informing me on the day that I sent the text to let Chris know that our friend Preston had died. His wife informed me that Chris had also died just the previous months in a drowning accident. And it was really, really hard on me. And I got drunk that night, and I relapsed. And then I struggled for a while with his death. And so, you know, and I was still getting a lot of shit from my family. And then one night, you know, I never could do the steps, the step 3 and in the 12 steps. I've done all the steps, but it's never ending. And I've got another video that talks about the steps. But, you know, I had done step 3. I had never done step 2 or 3 because I didn't believe in God. And finally, my sponsor, when I finally got a sponsor, I started doing things right. He's like, you know, you gotta believe, and you gotta have faith. And that night, you know, not long after Preston and Chris had died, I got down on my hands and knees, and I did the 3rd step prayer, and I said, "Dear Father, I offer myself to Thee to build with me and do with me as Thou wilt. Please relieve me of the bondages of self so that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of Thy power, Thy love, and Thy way of life." And then when I laid back in bed, I had the most profound spiritual experience. And I'm not going to get into all that, but it's very similar to the founder of AA, whose name was Bill Wilson, who had a similar white light type experience, and felt the wind and felt the presence of a higher presence, or felt the presence of God. And I felt the presence, and I haven't been the same since. And then that's when when I found God, and then I wanted to let everybody know, and I started just, I'm this, I think I'm this chosen. I think I'm this 144,000 book of Revelations, and I'm going to be this, and I'm going to get this inheritance, and I'm going to be the family curse breaker, and I'm going to do all of this. And I tell them, and there's extraterrestrials in the sky. They're going to keep coming down, and there might be cataclysms, and I was just freaking my family out because I was just like, I got to tell somebody. And I told so many of them that now I have been labeled crazy, that I need to be locked up. I need to get back on my meds. And to this day, I can't talk about those things. My sister actually, when I was talking about just literally being out in the sun and the sun's energy healing us and grounding with the earth, and how the energy, the electromagnetic field, it's coming up through the earth, and it's grounding. And she actually threw me out of the house. So, family members do not want to hear anything that's going to make them uncomfortable. And so I don't have anything to talk about with them. I just don't talk about, so-and-so's getting married. And let me pause it just for a second. Anyway, I took it overboard because I didn't know any better. It was a new feeling, and also started getting all these psychic gifts, and I firmly believe I have a direct communication with God. I talk to God. And I get these sensations. I get responses that are nonverbal, but are more of a feeling and a pressure, and in a certain part of the body, and it intensifies, and it can be depending on the questions, it can be very intensive or very not so. Or anyway, I have a system now where I communicate, starting to learn self-healing techniques and keeping that high-pitched sound in your head. The more high-pitched, the higher vibration. That's actually a healing vibration. And just, I don't know, just, loving life, listening to music, dancing, being myself, being the guy that whistles down the grocery store aisle, not watching the news, not letting everything get upset me, not letting the politics get to me, just trusting in God, trusting that everything's going to work out, trusting that in a few weeks I will have a place to stay, and I will be getting some type of blessing, some type of monetary or something, new health, meeting new other star seeds. Being able to play with my dogs again, those things I miss. And anyway, I'm rambled on quite a bit. I wanted to touch on, finding God through addiction, and I think I've done that. I'm now 7 months sober, okay, from alcohol, but I'm still 6 years clean from Xanax. When I went home, when I finally left my family during that month, I was treated so bad and just ignored, and the silent treatment and gaslight and just made to feel bad, and to where I finally just got drunk and I took it out on my son, and just made a lot of yelling and stuff. And to this day, he still won't talk to me. Actually tried to fight me last time I went in, even though, he started both things. I won't get into all that, but I've made my apologies. I've forgiven everybody. I know I've made mistakes. And, we all have a past, but we can't live in our past. I don't live in my past anymore. One of the sayings is, when you got one foot in the past and one foot in the future, then you're pissing on today. So you got to keep your focus, and I've been practicing really hard to live in the now, live in the moment, and do the next right thing. And even when I'm in pain and I go out, I try to spread positivity and try to flip a negative situation or a depressed situation into something positive. Anyway, I'm going to get off here. I know there's probably more I wanted to say, but I think that's plenty. And I hope this helped anybody. I can elaborate on anything you guys want me to, and then I hope you all have a good night. God bless you all. Peace, love, and hope.